Hey guys, it's Micah. Today we're going to talk about how to get started making your own cosplays. I know it's something that a lot of you are wanting to get into, but you don't know where to start or what resources to use, or if you have to make a big elaborate cosplay or if you can just make small pieces. So we're going to be talking about that, but first, let us talk about the sponsor for today's video. And that is Boxy. For those of you that don't know what Boxy is a monthly subscription service where once a month you get a box that is packed full with all sorts of assorted snacks from Japan. Each month follows a different theme, maybe Halloween or a summer theme, or maybe more Christmassy snacks. Your first box, however, will be the Seasons of Japan box, which is the box I will be showing you today. This is a box with an assortment of treats from all 4 seasons, so you can get kind of a taste of what Boxy has to offer. Each box comes like jammed packed with 20 to 25 premium snack items, and it also gives you this really amazing booklet. This booklet is super cool because it talks about Boxy and the actual company itself. It also has a bunch of information about the snacks themselves. It talks a little bit about them, where they're from. A little bit further into the book, it even tells you what area of Japan each snack is from. Boxy also comes with free shipping to over 40 countries, which is super great, especially because international shipping costs usually cost a whole bunch. So when you can save some coin, that's pretty nice. Kind of want to try something in here, specifically this white strawberry. For one, I like these little triangle packages. I don't know why, I think they're really cute. It's like a freeze-dried strawberry, but it smells like... What? Okay, so it is a freeze-dried strawberry, but it's also white chocolate? So I was correct. It is literally a freeze-dried strawberry, but it's infused with white chocolate. It's a weird texture, but like a good texture. It tastes like biting into chocolate and a strawberry, and it tastes really good. Honest to God, I love the snacks that are in Boxy. It's a really great service, and I think everybody should try it at least once, especially with the Seasons of Japan box. It's an amazing box with a really great variety of snacks that you can choose from, and it really does give you a good taste of what Boxy has to offer. You can tell that they put a lot of time and effort and care into curating every single box. If you're interested in getting a Boxy for yourself, check out the link in the description and use my code. You can save up to 10% on your order, which is up to $44 worth of saving, which is kind of a nice deal if you ask me. If you have the chance, seriously, try it out. I mean it. I genuinely really like this product, and I really like the company and everything that they're trying to do. I think it's something that's really cool, and Japanese snacks taste way better than a lot of American snacks. So alright, now we can talk about cosplay. So, where do we begin? So an argument that I've seen with cosplay time and time again for years and years and years, as long as I've been doing this, is if you don't make your own cosplays, you're not a real cosplayer, which is the biggest load of malarkey I have ever heard in my life. Honestly, I have to say, the fact that bought-in cosplays are so easily accessible nowadays, even just in the past few years, the accessibility for cosplay has skyrocketed, and I love that. I love that this hobby is spreading and becoming more popular. So hopefully we can eventually get over the stigma that if you don't make your cosplays, you're not a real cosplayer. If you don't want to make your cosplays, don't. Like, honestly, there are so many times I would love to just not make a cosplay. There are many factors as to why someone might make a cosplay though. For one, I enjoy the creative process of it. I enjoy getting to take my own spin and twists on a character design and do fun things. It also keeps me busy. I enjoy that aspect about it a lot. Or, you know, maybe you can't find the cosplay made. You know, some characters, maybe really obscure characters or really brand new characters, might not have a cosplay that you can purchase. Or maybe if you can purchase that cosplay, it looks kind of bad. Or, you know, maybe it's ridiculously expensive. I'm not saying that making your own cosplays will save you money every time, but in some instances, yeah, it will. Or, unfortunately, in a lot of cases, you can't fit into pre-made cosplays. I should know the feeling. I don't fit into most pre-made cosplays, so I end up making my own. No matter what your reasoning is for wanting to make a cosplay, hopefully I can help you get started and give you some tips to help elevate your maker skill. Honestly, it's really fun fun, and there are some things that I truly think that everybody should know, and then things that not everyone needs to know, but if it's something you're interested in, you should dive in and take a step. So knowing where to start can be kind of confusing. You know, do you just jump right in and make a full cosplay? Or do you start small? A great way to start is honestly altering pre-existing things. You know, thrifting clothes, buying clothing that might be close to what you need, and then either painting it, sewing it, gluing it, adding crafting, doing whatever to it to make it look like the character you're trying to cosplay. I've done this for years. I've thrifted old clothing and maybe just hemmed it, made it shorter, painted on it, and gotten what I needed at a fraction of the cost as just purchasing the cosplay. So I find this is one of the best ways to start, especially if you're new to crafting garments. Maybe you don't want to craft a garment. It can be kind of intimidating. Trust me, when I first started, I was scared. But it will get easier, and I will talk about that more. Go out to your thrift store, find a shirt that's close, and maybe all you need to do is paint a design on it. For my Junko Enoshima cosplay years ago, I thrifted a black blazer, and all I did was cut the sleeves, I think, a little bit shorter. I changed the neckline a little bit to be a little bit lower cut, and then I just painted on the little details on the side. It worked way better than the cheap, way too small Junko cosplay I bought online for not too cheap of a price. It's pretty easy and it's a fun way to get started. Another thing you can start small with is just making props. That doesn't always involve sewing, and it doesn't always involve crazy things. You can make props out of so many different things. It's a fun way to get started painting and learning how to use different materials. Things like EVA foam is a cheap, great material to make almost anything out of. This way you can make aspects of your cosplay that you can't always buy online, or the online versions, again, don't always look that great. Now, let's say you do want to start making your stuff from scratch. That can be incredibly intimidating. So I'll try and help you and figure out where to start. First and foremost, and this is something that I think every single person should know, even if you're buying your cosplays, and that's basic hand sewing. It's incredibly useful for absolutely everybody because in case something were to tear or rip, you have the skill set to be able to fix it yourself. And it's going to be a fix that will last you a lot longer than, say, glue. Yeah, glue works in a fix, but it's really best to learn how to properly stitch fabric back together. I will not be teaching you any of this, by the way. There are so many great resources online. YouTube has a ton of tutorials. I also use Skillshare for a lot of things. Not sponsored. Wouldn't mind if bats eyes, but I do actually use the program and it's really, really handy to have. But yeah, learn some basic hand sewing. All you really need to know is a couple generic stitches, you know, front stitch, back stitch, whip stitch, and the supplies are super cheap to use. Needles and thread cost you like nothing. So it's something that you can do and you can practice on even like small scrap materials. Learn how to hem clothing because I can't tell you how many times I've gotten skirts and pants that were way too long for me, and not knowing how to hem has been my downfall. You can make entire garments by hand sewing, which arguably is a nightmare to someone like me who hates hand sewing and avoids it as much as possible, but it's doable. It's gonna take you a lot longer, but hey, if that's all you got, that's all you got. But if you're really, really serious about getting into sewing larger garments and sewing more frequently and getting more into sewing cosplay, I really heavily recommend investing in a sewing machine. Now, you don't need anything crazy. If a sewing machine can do a straight stitch, a zigzag stitch, and you can adjust the tension, that's all you need. It doesn't need to do anything crazy. It doesn't need to have all these fancy stitches and embroidery stitches because I can guarantee you most of the time you're never ever going to use them. My sewing machine has 150 stitches, and when I tell you I maybe use 5, most are decorative and not really used very often. They are fun to have and I do use them for fancier stitches, but it's such an unnecessary thing. My sewing machine was hundreds of dollars and you don't need to spend that much. You can get plenty of sewing machines that are good quality for under $100, and I do recommend saving up and getting one. My go-to brands are Brother, I currently use a Brother machine, and Singer. Singer also makes really nice machines. My previous machine was a Singer. The only reason I changed it was because it died. Now, when you get a sewing machine, you're gonna want to learn how to use it. Again, great resources on YouTube that can teach you how to do some really basic things, how to properly pin your fabric, finish off a stitch, how to adjust tension, how to do the bobbin, how to do the needle, how to thread it, what some of the different stitches do and when to use them. Just practice on like scrap little pieces of cloth. I know you can go to like certain places and get little fat quarters. What that is just like a little square of cloth. It's usually a fourth of a yard. You can buy those like super duper cheap. I'm talking like $1 a piece. You can do a whole bunch of different things with just those little pieces. Learn how to use your machine. I hate to say it, but the little old lady quilting tutorials on YouTube are slow and painful to get through, but some of the most informative videos I've ever had the pleasure of watching and have taught me so much. When you're getting started, practice making easy garments. T-shirts can be really easy if you have the right material. Circle skirts are the easiest thing. The hardest part is hemming, because hemming round surfaces is a little bit of a pain. When I tell you, it gets so much easier. You know, there are tons of like circle skirt calculators online. Seriously, it'll literally tell you what your measurements are, how to do it, and it's like stupid easy. I use circle skirts for like everything, pretty much. On top of your sewing machine, by the way, make sure you get proper supplies. Get yourself fabric scissors and only use those scissors for fabric. Don't ever use them for anything else. Absolutely nothing. They are for fabric and fabric only. Make sure you label them. And if someone uses your fabric scissors, you stab them with the fabric scissors. Don't actually stab anyone, but seriously. They need to be incredibly sharp so your fabric cuts smoothly and you're not straining your hand. Make sure you get yourself some sewing pins. I also have this little magnetic pin holder. You could get a pin cushion. I like this one because I drop pins all the time and I can just hold it all over that and pick them up. You can also make one of these if you have magnets, or just get a magnet. That works too. Another thing I also like to use are these Wonder Clips. You can get like a pack of 100 for like 10 bucks, I think, on Amazon. I like using these to hold the edges of fabrics. These hold a lot nicer than pins. I prefer these. These are also great for holding thicker material, or if you're using a material that'll show pinholes like a faux leather, use these little bad boys. These are my saving grace and I need to get more of them. Also, grab a seam ripper. Make sure you have one of these. Trust me, you will thank me. If you're also like me, maybe purchase a couple of these or you're gonna lose them. I swear every single person I know who sews puts this down somewhere, never sees it again, buys another one, finds the one that they had before, but loses the other one. Once you're a little bit more comfortable using your sewing machine and learning how to make basic things, I also recommend starting getting used to working with patterns. Some cosplayers make all of their patterns themselves. I try to make a lot of my patterns because a lot of the things I end up making have no pre-existing patterns, and so it's a pain. I'm not very good about altering patterns. I'm still trying to get used to that. I am still pretty new to using commercial grade patterns. I would recommend looking into how to use those. A lot of them have really, really clear directions, but if you don't understand how to read a sewing pattern, again, YouTube, I'm gonna keep pressing this. YouTube has so many great tutorials. I'm not gonna be making them just because I don't feel it necessary to make something that's already there and already concise. There are tons of great ways to learn how to make your own patterns by either using pre-existing clothing that you own that has the same fit that you want, by literally covering yourself in plastic wrap and duct tape. That's what I do. To get yourself a form-fitted pattern. That's a really great way to do it, and you'll eventually get used to learning how to make your patterns yourself, learning seams and where adding seams would be to help yourself. A really common mistake I see in beginners is using fabric choices that aren't at all meant for what they're trying to make. We often go for what's cheap, and what's cheap is usually broadcloth. And don't get me wrong, broadcloth can be used for quite a bit of things. I've used broadcloth for scarves, I've used it for pleated skirts, anything that is going to need a crisp press or anything like that and doesn't need to stretch or give or bend or crease, it's going to be great for. But it's really not the best choice for a lot of different garment. You know, I see people trying to make form-fitted clothing with broadcloth and then wonder why it doesn't work right or lay right, and it's because it's not the right material. You need to familiarize yourself with fabric types, because you can still get the kind of fabric you need at a cheap price. Just because something's cheap doesn't always mean it's going to work. Fawnina, or Mango Cyrene as she used to be known as, she still has a video here on YouTube that talks all about fabric types, what the weave of the fabric is, kind of figuring out what is best. I will link that video down below. It seriously helped me so much back in the day when I had like zero clue about fabrics. I still kind of have zero clue about fabrics, but I'm getting better. The biggest thing is, do not be afraid to mess up. It's gonna happen. Everybody messes up. I don't know how many times I've had to just scrap something completely and start over. And because you're gonna mess up, never make something for the first time using your final fabric. Learn how to do mock-ups. A mock-up is basically just taking your pattern, putting it on cheap scrap fabric that isn't at all what you're going to use in the end, and testing it, making sure that it fits and that the seams line up, that it's the right length, and if that fits and looks great, then you can take the pattern that you have and apply it to your final fabric. This saves you from wasting money, because if you mess up on your final fabric and you don't have enough to make more, then you're gonna have to buy more fabric and spend more money, and that's no fun. But yeah, don't be scared. If you make a mistake, you make a mistake. It's not the end of the world, and in fact, now that you made a mistake, you know, hey, this is what I need to not do again, and if I don't do that, then hey, it'll work, right? Seriously, even professionals still make tons of mistakes. Another thing not to worry about is accuracy. A lot of people have it in their head anymore that if something's not accurate, then it's bad. People will comment on other people's designs and be like, that's not accurate. This character doesn't have that. Well, cool, but my cosplay does. Feel free to mix it up a little bit. I see so many like great younger cosplayers on TikTok adding so many accessories and playing with their makeup and playing with the base design of the character to be more exciting, to stand out, and I love that so much. So apply it to when you're making something. I love adding like fancy trims, fancy embellishments, because hey, I know it's not on the original character, but it looks so much more interesting in real life. A character design looks great in 2D or 3D, but then when you apply it to the real life situation, a lot of times adding more embellishments is actually going to make it look way more interesting. For example, I added just a bunch of lace trims onto my Flame cosplay. Like, those aren't actually there, but I wanted to do some small detail work that kept the design pretty similar to the in-game character, but was way more interesting visually and helped me stand out a little bit more. You can find so many great laces and trims and buttons and pins and things that you can add to your cosplay when you're making it, and if you think it'll look cool and you put it on and you like how it looks, even if it's not accurate, you put it on. I want to see that. I love that. I love people adding details. You don't have to, and if you want to make something that is more accurate to whatever it is you're making, then cool. But just don't be afraid to branch out and try something different, because ultimately, if it makes you happy, that's really all that matters. If you want to elevate your cosplay once you've gotten used to making more things, and you're really wanting to make your stuff look more professional and just more interesting to look at, seriously, play around with fabric choices. My biggest thing is using different textures. I actually have an example. She's kind of hidden back here. This is a current project that I'm working on. Brownie points to anybody who can guess who it is if you don't already know. And I really wanted to play with textures. I didn't want to make the teal part the same exact color as the white part. So this white is a silk Zupiani, which is a really nice textured, lustrous silk from Silk Baron. It's a beautiful texture. It's really rough. It's got these like lines going through the grain. I love silk Zupiani a lot. And then to go really nicely with the sheen, I have here a velvet. This is just a stretch velvet. It's super duper soft. It's a beautiful color, and the two complement each other incredibly well. There is some orange that will be going on here, and I was originally going to use wool, the textured wool, but unfortunately that was out of stock. And then I was going to use a suede, which would also look really nice I am going to be using another kind of velvet, but it's more of a rougher textured ribbed velvet just because that's all I could get my hands on, and I think it'll look really nice regardless. There'll be some silver shiny accent buttons that go on here, but yeah, play with textures. Matte fabrics for base designs and then accent fabrics being really shiny, lustrous fabrics is, oh, such a good combo. So play around. You can find lots of different fabrics. Go through a fabric store and just touch everything, even if you don't necessarily know what it is. Eventually you can get used to what fabrics you know will work for certain things. And even if you don't think it might work, try it. If it's not gonna break the bank, get the fabric. Just be careful with upholstery fabrics. You can use upholstery fabrics for cosplay and clothing and things like that, but just know some stiffer upholstery fabrics are not going to work for absolutely everything. Just be a little bit mindful when shopping, especially if you're shopping online. I know like Joann's will say like what the fabric might be good for, like making dresses, making skirts, pillowcases, curtains, but just note that you can use upholstery for cosplay. Get out of your comfort zone though. Don't be afraid to go out of your comfort zone. It's okay to jump into projects that you have no idea what to do and how to do it. For one, it's a great learning experience. You can learn how to do things. You're gonna make mistakes, and that's okay, but you're also gonna learn something new. You should never be complacent with where you are on a skill set. You should always be striving to improve. If you end up getting into a project and not being able to finish it because you realize maybe it's out of my skill set, maybe it's not for me at this moment, that's okay, but try. Always try. If you want to do this big, elaborate, fancy cosplay, you do that big, elaborate, fancy cosplay. And remember, you can always simplify things down. You don't have to do absolutely everything that's on there. Or you can redesign things to be easier. Let's talk about money. Sometimes making your own cosplay can be expensive. Now, I heavily budget for my cosplays. I make a huge spreadsheet. I have every single little thing I'm gonna buy, how much it's gonna cost. I always make sure I include shipping so I know how much I'm gonna be paying for things. Even if it's just a rough estimate, I always overestimate and I over budget. That way I know for a fact I will have enough money in the long run. How cheap or how expensive a cosplay is going to be up to you. You don't have to spend money on higher end materials, but if you choose to, do it. You know, more expensive doesn't always mean better. Fabrics is usually the things that you're going to be spending the most on. Some fabrics, unfortunately, are always just going to cost more. It's just because it's going to cost more for them to make it. But you can always look for sales. You can always look for clearance. Certain places to buy fabrics from will be cheaper. I will link a couple places where I buy my fabrics below, so you can look and you can get an idea of where you can start purchasing fabrics yourself and try and save some money by cross-referencing all these sites. And there are other websites out there. These are just the ones that I usually go to. I haven't really talked about props. I think I might make a props video some other time just because there's a whole lot of stuff that goes into making props. But again, a lot of the same things apply, you know, don't be afraid to experiment, try new things, you know, go out of your comfort zone. And there are tons of tutorials for props online. If you're looking for a very specific prop, chances are you can find tutorials. Otherwise, I also heavily recommend Kamui Cosplay, Punished Prop, Evil Ted channel. I will link, again, all of those in the description. They're great people for prop making. They can give you a lot more insight onto getting started making props and what materials to use and where to get the materials. So again, I'll link them down below. Heavily recommend them. Also, the videos are just kind of fun and interesting to watch, and they're wonderful people. The very last thing I just want to talk about and want to stress is please take your time. Don't rush through things, because when you rush, you make mistakes and you'll get upset. And don't con crunch. You know, your mental health is not worth a cosplay. Your physical health either. I have pulled so many all-nighters before cons before, trying to get all of my stuff done because I put things off to the last minute, because in the long run, sure, one cosplay won't take me very long to make, but when you've got 3 others, it all kind of piles up on one another. So plan accordingly, make things ahead of time if you're making it for a con. If you're not, just take your time. Like, there's no reason that it needs to be done right then and there. I understand sometimes it's exciting to have it done, but really take your time. Don't be pulling these crazy all-nighters because your work is gonna suffer, and so is your mental health. I mean, if you're not even having fun making a cosplay, I don't really think that there's a point to it. Con crunch is something that thankfully has been dying down over the years. People used to glorify it, especially like for KatsuCon, that Katsu crunch, trying to get out the fancy, elaborate cosplays for like one of the biggest cons of the year, but a lot of us have kind of realized if it doesn't get done, it doesn't get done. If you can get it done to a point where at least you can wear it, that's great enough. I don't know how many times I've never even fully finished a cosplay. I'll get it close enough and I'm like, I might have to safety pin everything together, but hey, at least it's wearable, I can wear it to a con and nobody has to know. And even if I don't have everything, like, who cares? It's a cosplay, it's not the end of the world. And if you're working for commitments, you know, groups, things like that, just, again, plan accordingly. Make sure that you can try and get as much work done as possible so you're not stressing yourself out over a cosplay and you're not scrambling in your hotel room trying to finish things, because not only does it suck for you, it also sucks for the people you're rooming with. So hopefully this is just a little bit of information and resources that can help you get started. I understand it's not super duper in-depth about very oddly specific things, but honestly, when it comes to cosplay, there's this huge big plethora of things I could dive into. Certain things I would like to dive more into. I do have more videos coming up. I will be talking more about packing and traveling for cons soon, and I'll be doing some more makeup tutorials. But if there's anything you'd like to see, remember you can always request that in the comment section or send me a DM on Instagram or anything like that. Don't ever be afraid to request something. I can't guarantee that I will always get to it, but I will if I can. Don't forget to follow all of my social media accounts. My Instagram is @Valesti_ along with my Twitter, and my TikTok is @_Valesti. I did change it recently. With that, I hope you guys have a wonderful day, and if you work on a new project, feel free to send me it on Instagram or Twitter. I would love to see it, and I hope you guys have a really great rest of the day. See ya!